first-timers, not to heckle them. Go on.
Mr. Speaker, I think Milia has graduated
Go
to
on,
grandmother.
Junet.
Anyway, Mr. Speaker, I stand to oppose the Finance Bill 2024. Mr. Speaker, when this bill landed in the House, Mr. Speaker, and it was tabled for the first reading, Mr. Speaker, and I took a copy of it, Mr. Speaker, I said this bill, I'm sure, was not made on earth. It must have been made somewhere else, Mr. Speaker. Because no human being can sit somewhere and craft that kind of bill, Mr. Speaker, for people who live on this earth, Mr. Speaker. Why do I say, Mr. Speaker, so? Mr. Speaker, the bill was attacking a human being from all sides, from his stomach, from his head, from his legs. You cannot move, you cannot eat, you cannot sleep, you cannot travel. That's what the bill was doing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was asking myself again a question. If this bill has decided to tax everything under the sun, from bread to tires of mukokoteni, of piki-piki, boda-bodas, wheelbarrows, even wheelchairs of disabled people. Mr. Speaker, I was asking myself, in the next financial year that is just 8 months to come, what will they tax now? Because you have taxed basically everything. What are you going to tax next? I thought the next taxation is going to be the oxygen now that we are taking.
Yes, order, Junet. Yes, Lelmengit. What's your point of order and what standing order?
I'm standing under the standing order number 91,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker. I want Honorable Junet to substantiate that we are only putting levies on imported assembled motorcycles, not locally assembled and not locally manufactured, so that the Kenyans out there can know, can know the truth, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I have not even spoken about that. Me, I spoke about rubber. I did not talk about assembled, disabled, and non-assembled. I'm not talking about that. You must be in a different house than me. You must be in Wasingishu County Assembly or something, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to proceed with my point of argument, Mr. Speaker, if this bill was done the way it was done, without the input of serious government technocrats, Mr. Speaker, then it has proved to me that this government lacks technocrats. What it has also come to prove is that when we were campaigning, this government said they have a plan. And they put everything that is flowery, that is good in that plan. But I can see now what is happening in this country is to govern this country without a plan. Because there is no plan that can recommend this kind of finance bill, Mr. Speaker, on earth. It is a process now. The process now the government or the regime has entered is to govern without a plan. And I think the people who have been entrusted to develop these bills, to bring it here, those people really want to bring down this government. And it is coming down slowly. And so, I mean too fast. Mr. Speaker, you cannot, I want to tell my colleagues and members of parliament, inside a hotel, it is us, members of parliament, who will be held responsible for taxing Kenyans, not the authors of the bill. Those people, they will be found nowhere. The people whose the question will be put to them, as many of that opinion say aye, as many of that opinion say nay, it is us. Today we have an opportunity to stand with the people of Kenya, to defend the people who elected us. Today, against harsh taxation, against imposing taxation that is going to make them, Mr. Speaker, you are taxing bread, the stomach of someone. You are taxing rubber, the mobility of someone. You are taxing money transfer and money services. People cannot afford anything to buy because the money will be expensive. What else has remained other than death now? Somebody just has to die now. Nothing else has remained. But Mr. Speaker, I want to say this. Taxation must be, we know the general principles of taxation, Mr. Speaker. The general principles of taxations are known. Myself, I've interacted with the finance bill now for the 11th or 12th time, Mr. Speaker. The tax must be equitable, must be simple, must be efficient. Now we are, before last financial year and the other year, we were discussing, for example, I-tax. Now today we are coming with E-teams. Tomorrow we shall come with K-tax. Mr. Speaker, how many times are we going to change the process of taxation in this country? We are discussing here economic growth. You want to tell me this kind of bill will enhance economic growth in this country? Is that what you're telling Kenyans? Mr. Speaker, let me say this.
Yes, Honorable Junet, there's a point of order from Kamket. Under what standing order?
Mr. Speaker, I rise under standing order number 176. And Mr. Speaker, just a moment. The Honorable Junet has spoken very vehemently against the bill. He has powers under standing order number 176. I have read the report of the committee, and there is no dissenting opinion. The members from the minority side have supported this bill. His own members that he, as the minority whip, has nominated to the finance committee. If he is true to his word, can I challenge him, Mr. Speaker, to exercise his powers under standing order number 176 to de-whip those members?
Junet.
Mr. Speaker, you see, we are now on the plenary of the House. We are not in a finance committee. And the decision of the bill will be made on the floor of this House, not in the committee. But I know where Honorable Kamket is coming from. I know when you collect cattle, you share with everyone. But now this is different, Mr. Speaker. We are in a different scenario. Now we are in the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker. We are not dealing with cattle. But having said, Mr. Speaker, you know, when you are interrupted like this, you lose your thought process, Mr. Speaker. But let me come back to what I was saying. Mr. Speaker, this bill, I can see the committee in their own wisdom have proposed certain changes. That's a step in the right direction, but that's not enough. That's not enough. Because there are more other things that we need to deal with, and we need to bring amendment on them or shoot down the bill in its entirety, in totality. Mr. Speaker, let us be sensitive to the people of Kenya. Now I've lost my time. I can see I'm being told your time is up. Let us be sensitive to the people of Kenya. Because it is the ordinary person who's paying for what we are processing here. It's not us, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we are going to make life difficult, for example, Mr. Speaker, last year we passed a finance bill here, which is a Finance Act of 2023. How much money have we collected using that? We did not reach our targets. Now that is a proof that higher taxation does not yield to higher revenues, Mr. Speaker. Lower taxation yields to higher revenues. If you make the taxation process easy and simple, and which everyone wants to pay, that is when you will collect money. But when you tax it highly, people will look for ways to evade it, people will look for ways to not to pay it, and that is the norm. It is not all over the world. It is not rocket science. So let us...
Up, Didymus. Your time is up, Junet. Didymus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity also to add my voice on this very important bill, the Finance Bill 2024. Honorable Speaker, in making a decision as to whether I support or oppose, I am guided by three things. First, that is very important, and the country must understand this, Honorable Speaker.